So Comic-Con's right around the corner. It's 2 days away. Well, 2 days away is Wednesday. Wednesday's preview night, so I'm counting that. 2 days away. And I'm really busy. I'm making Kevin's costumes and I'm touching up my costumes. But since it's getting late and I have a little time left, I've decided to make a tutorial. These are little metal plates and they're supposed to go on Kevin's Red Hood costume. The Red Hood from the new Batman animated movie. They're little plates that go on the Red Hood's gloves and on his boots. So this is a cheap and easy way to make fake metal. I know you can do the Pebacura with fiberglass and Bondo and all that, but it takes a really long time. And actually Kevin's doing that for his helmet right now. But since we only have 2 days left, I'm showing you how to make quick and easy fake metal. Okay, things you will need. I use this flooring material. It's cheap. I get it at Target or Walmart and it usually comes in packs of 4 or 5 of these big sheets. And they're like puzzle pieces, the edges come off and they work really good. It's really cheap and perfect for what we need. Next, this patch paint for wall, like putty for the wall that you fill in little holes with. This, and I already got, I use this all the time, and I use this little art spatula. It's for mixing paint, but this is perfect. Something like this that's really small, I guess you could use your hands if you really needed to, but some type of little spatula. So I guess this stuff is pretty safe. It's a lot safer and non-toxic than Bondo or fiberglass because you use it inside your house, so it's gotta be pretty safe. It only says to like wear a mask if you're sanding it, which we're gonna be sanding, so I suggest using a mask. And sand it outside because it makes a mess and it is bad for you to actually breathe in the dust. But otherwise, using this stuff when it's wet is not toxic at all. Make sure you close it tight every time else it dries out and it's worthless. Next, I got my metallic spray paint and my heat gun, which is amazing, and I got it last year for Christmas. Oh, and I love it. The last thing you're gonna need is some sandpaper. So I found this in the garage. It's not really important what kind you get. It's kind of rough, and I cut it into small pieces like this, just because it's easier to handle, and I have lots of them on hand. You're also going to need a ruler. This is my favorite shiny grid ruler, and an X-Acto knife. So let's get started. So I already have a pattern pre-cut, and I place it on my scrap of flooring. And I take my X-Acto knife, and holding it close to the edge so I waste less, I just lightly push into the foam and make a pattern. So once you have that done, I take my ruler and I cut along my ruler so that the lines are straight and even. So just push down slightly, sliding against your ruler, and you'll eventually start to cut into the foam. And I start off light and then cut harder and harder until I make it all the way through and hit my cardboard. See, it came apart. Now just keep doing that around the whole edge until it comes out. Ta-da! And it's clean and cut and perfect square. So this is the square that we made, but we want it to bend around either the hand or the boot, so we want it to look like this. So you need to heat up the plastic, and once it cools, it will dry in the shape that you left it at. So take my heat gun, and I set it at the lowest setting. And if you don't have a heat gun, you pretty much use a hair dryer, or I know people who like heat it up in the oven or over the stove. So take your square, and I just kind of heat it up on low. Make sure it's not too hot before you pick it up, and I just hold it in my hands to the right shape and hold it there for a couple minutes. Not really a couple minutes, I kind of just hold it there until I start to loosen and I see that it holds its shape. Another method for shaping is to actually rubber band it around a cylinder or whatever shape you need. So after it's sat for a few minutes, either holding it or around a glass, take it off and you see that it's retained its shape. The only thing I don't like is when you use a rubber band, since it's hot, it will retain the shape of the rubber band. Okay, so take your patch and paint and your spatula and just get little pieces at a time and start spreading it over your cutout piece. It should spread like frosting. If it's dried up and starts crumbling, that means the patch paint is already too dry and it's not going to dry well. So I just do one side first and get lots on there, then I just kind of smash it down on the other side. And I keep working until it's even and it fills in all the little gaps. Ideally, you're going to want a little pyramid shape on the top, so that way when you sand it down, you can make it nice and round. And you're going to continue to do this for all 4 sides. The finished piece should look something like this. All the corners and little gaps should be filled in with the paint and patch. And if you use the rubber band method, I take a little more putty and spread it over the top so I can fill in that little crevice that the rubber band made. Then I take them all outside and let them dry in the sun. After about an hour, I go back outside and check on them. And if you push the sides where the putty is, and if it's still soft, that means it's not dry. It has to be completely solid and not squishy at all. And if you're even more pressed for time, you can turn your oven on really low, like 250 or 225, and just stick them in there for a couple minutes. Once they're completely dry, I take them outside and start to sand them. I take my little piece of sandpaper just because it's easier to use, and just start on one side and just start sanding away slightly, little by little, until I get the right shape I want. This is the shape I'm looking for. It's slightly rounded, but it's mostly all the hard edges are buffered off. And make sure you sand the top of the ones that you added more putty on because of the rubber band marks. So once they're all finished and you've sanded all the edges, you can be ready to spray paint them. So take your spray paint, mine's a metallic finish because I want them to look like metal, and make sure you're on an open space, and I use this cardboard they're on, and actually I spray paint over my back wall where it's just a horse trail and no one's there and it doesn't bother anyone. So get all your stuff together, make sure you're in an open area, and move your pieces so they're not touching each other, so when you spray paint them they won't get stuck together. And then begin to paint. I just do a light coat over all of them first, and I come back and do the edges. So here I am, painted all the tops, and now I'm going back and going around all the edges, one side at a time. And kind of make sure you have a big enough box. I kind of went over and sprayed on the plants, but it's okay because I'm on the back of the hill where no one lives. I usually give them about an hour to dry, and then go back and do a second coat. So here they are, I got them outside, they're all done. Still a little sticky, not quite dry yet, but all the edges are painted. This is what they look like. And right here, like this circle right here, is where I touched it with my heat gun, so you should really try not to do that because you can see it leaves marks. So yeah, they're completed. I've got all 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. Got 8. And just a little tip to make them look more realistic, like these are pretty plain. You can also add these little screws, whatever size this is, 1/2 inch, whatever. They're super tiny and they're thin enough to actually, if you screw them in the foam, they don't stick out. So they just kind of stand there and they're just for decoration. And it kind of adds a cool effect. Also, you could battle damage them, like these are other things I made out of foam. And I scratched them and painted them up a little to make them look battle damaged. You can see there's this fake screw in here, right here. It just kind of makes it look a little better. So that's just another look you can go for. But this is what we want. Here you go. Probably took about, well, it took me the whole day because I get distracted usually and was doing other stuff, but it should take you about a few hours with all the drying, the paint drying, the putty drying. So there you go, quick metal tutorial.